Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. We're going to talk for a minute about the First Amendment, but probably not the part of it that you think often about. I'll have more in just a moment. The First Amendment contains a lot of prohibitions on government exercise over speech content. And that's sort of what it's known for. But it also has a right to peaceably assemble and the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. The history of government overreach in the country in the last 10 years has become significant and problematic, in that a lot of things are labeled as terrorism that are in fact not terrorism. One of the things that has been labeled as domestic terrorism is people petitioning their school boards with regard to the curriculum in those schools and with regard to the rules regarding bathrooms in those schools. I won't get into either of those two as to whether critical race theory should be taught or whether there should be transgendered bathrooms. That's a personal decision, and everybody should have their own opinion on that, and you shouldn't rely on mine. But here's what I am going to talk about. And that is, if the First Amendment says that you have a right to petition the government for redress of grievances, when you go to a school board meeting and make your voice heard, even if you make it heard profanely, even if you make it heard loudly, even if you say things that you might not should say, you have a right to do that. Now, you don't have a right to issue threats, and you don't have a right to threaten violence, for sure. But you absolutely have a right to tell somebody, if you do this, I'm going to make sure that we recall you and get you out of that position. Or I'm going to demand your resignation. All of these things are perfectly acceptable in terms of the right of free speech. When the FBI began tagging parents for complaining to their school boards, in other words, tagging them as a domestic terror threat, I believe that went way too far. We have a right in this country to go to our government, whether it's at the municipal level, the county level, like a school board, or the state level, and make our grievances known. If you don't do that, then you get exactly whatever some power-hungry, crazy politician tells you get. And you have to take it lying down because you're not standing up on your feet and redressing those grievances. So those rights are important, and they came about as a result of the way the king overreached at the founding of this country. He overreached, he overtaxed, he overregulated. And in many respects, those things are going on right now. I will never stand up and tell you that it is okay to threaten violence or to act violently against elected officials. And I will never tell you that it is okay to disobey the law. It isn't. If you disobey the law, you should expect to be punished. In fact, that's what Martin Luther King did when he opposed the racism in the 1960s. Just because there exists a right to peacefully oppose unjust laws, so long as you're willing to take the medicine for doing so, does not mean that there's a right to murder and loot and burn and cause destruction of private property and essentially throw a violent temper fit because you didn't get your way. That is not happening in these school board cases. It is happening elsewhere. And it should never happen. And it should be dealt with harshly, in my opinion. So that's where we're at. I wanted to get this video out. And again, thank you for listening. I hope you found this interesting. I'd really appreciate a thumbs up on this video. Thank you again for watching and have a terrific day.